Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Football Friday edition of Palmetto Sports Daily. Rick Henry here in Columbia, and we've got a full house today. Tegan Brown joins us from Myrtle Beach, Kevin Bilodeau from Charleston, Carmine Jamay from Greenville, and we're talking high school football and the WIS game of the week. We've got the AC Flora Falcons, number 3 in my Midlands top 10, hosting the South Point Stallions out of Rock Hill. Not only is AC Flora number 3 in the Midlands top 10, they are number 4 in the state in Class 4A. South Point, they are the number 1 ranked team in 4A. And South Point has 2 Gamecock commits. Jasavian Kearns, the quarterback there, managing to stay upright against Northwestern, and scored the game-winning touchdown as they beat Northwestern, which was the number 2 team in 5A last week, second to Dutch Fork. Now, AC Flora, they have a pretty good quarterback in Roper Winsky, completing 67.2% of his passes for nearly 1,100 yards and 14 touchdowns. So we should see a lot of good action in this one. South Point at AC Flora. Should be quite a ball game that a lot of folks in the state will have a lot of interest in. All right, Kevin, understand you got a big battle down there in Charlestown.
Yeah, one of my favorite rivalries we have here in the Low Country is our Friday Night Lights game of the week, as Bishop England, who's ranked 4th in our Friday Night Lights top 10 poll of the week, they're going to take on Porter Gaud. This is a rivalry effectively known as the Holy War, as it's 2 private schools going up against each other. This rivalry dates back several decades, some say more than 100 years, and Bishop England now really, they've been kind of going in the right direction the last couple of years. Like I said, they're ranked 4th in our weekly poll, coming off a 9-win season last year after a couple of down years. But Porter Gaud still managed to hand them a loss last season, and the Cyclones have actually won 3 of the last 4 in this series. But both sides ready to take the field later tonight.
I'm so excited to be in the environment. Like, I've heard nothing but, how wild this game is from the amount of fans that come and the atmosphere and all that stuff.
I mean, it's going to be a great environment. That's what we want, right? We got 2 really good football teams in the Low Country. We got 2 teams that a lot of these guys know each other. A lot of the parents know each other, families. There's a lot of crossover there.
This is historically one of the best atmospheres you're going to see at any high school football game in the Low Country, so we're excited for that to be our game of the week tonight. Carmine, what's on your schedule for this evening?
Yeah, guys, we also have a big matchup here in the Upstate between Daniel, which is currently ranked 8th in Class 4A, and the second-ranked team in Class 2A, Clinton. Don't call them Clinton. It's Clinton, the Red Devils. We were there, did a great story on them just a couple seasons ago when they celebrated their 100th year of football in Clinton. Great story of that program, bringing, I think, 6 state titles in the 70s and 80s during integration, and the racial unity shown by that team to lift them to state championship levels, just incredible. But back to present day, you have Daniel High School that is trying to get back to its state championship ways that they were under legendary head coach Jeff Brewster, and first-year head coach Chris Stone is coming in and trying to right the ship, bring them back up to where they were after elevating in class because of the reclassification. And this Daniel team, you might remember this summer, had the altercation at the football camp over the summer, placed Chris Stone on paid administrative leave for a week. He's back looking to prove himself. So Clinton hosting Daniel. Tegan is here in the Upstate. What about you?
Well, for our game of the week, we're heading out to the PD. Dillon taking on Hartsville. Dillon hosting this one. And this has been a good rivalry between these 2 teams, mostly because every year they tend to be very physical. It tends to be one of the best games for each team for the season. A little bit of a struggle this year for Hartsville. They just got their first win last week. It was against, let me double check here so I'm right, Rock Hill. They finally got that win 56-38. They had lost to Carolina Forest, and then they had lost to Camden. Dillon, on the other hand, they're 2-2 on the year, but they have not won 2 games in a row. They beat Marion last week, a crushing win there. They beat them 61-6. So they're coming off of a very good win, but I think these are going to be 2 very physical teams. I think this is going to be a really good matchup and a really good test for both of them as they get ready for region play. So here are both the coaches talking about that.
They're big and they're athletic and they have some playmakers, and Coach Calabrese does an excellent job, and I know they'll be ready to play, and it'll be a big challenge. Defensively, we've played well. We've got some tremendous linebackers on defense, and we've got some good skill guys, and our defensive front's getting better. I think the skill position guys are the guys that I would say that are our strength of our football team, and we're going to need them to make some plays Friday. So.
And it's incredibly fun. I mean, Coach Roller and his staff do a great job. Their team is always tough and physical and fast. So this is our last, non-region tune-up. It allows us to see what we're doing well, what we need to get fixed. And for the fans, they get to enjoy it, and that's what high school football is all about. We have good players on the outside. We have good players at running back, so we just kind of see how the game takes us. And like I said, just try to move the ball. It's easier said than done against Dillon because they're really good on defense, but we'll just put our best foot forward and see what happens.
And both of these coaches have been with their programs for quite a while, so they know each other pretty well. They kind of know how each of them works. So we'll have to see how Dillon and Hartsville do tonight, but we're going to take a quick break here on Palmetto Sports Daily.
If Clemson's tired of winning, they can send me on my way. That was one of the many viral sound bites from Dabo Swinney's press conference this Tuesday that we covered extensively, of course, here on Palmetto Sports Daily throughout the week. If you haven't heard it, you can check out our website, foxcarolina.com. We have most of the press conference up there because so many of the sound bites were incredible, along with that one. And Dabo has another availability, guys, as you might know about. It's his Wednesday post-practice availability that usually is very bland, doesn't really have much going on. I think everybody calls in on Zoom. I don't think you're even allowed to be in the usual smart media center that he hosts his press conference. But like I said, usually sparsely participated in. It goes about 7 or 8 minutes when his usual weekly press conference before that goes for 45 minutes or so. But at this one, it was interesting following up on the viral sound bites. One of the reporters asked if Dabo has actually had any real conversations with Clemson president Jim Clemens and athletics director Graham Neff about actually parting ways or actually acting on moving on his way. And here's what Dabo had to say in response.
Dabo, some of your comments on Tuesday went nationally viral, drew a lot of attention. Have you had a chance to catch up with Graham or Jim, since that presser, and how those conversations have gone, if so?
I didn't talk to nobody. I'm just working football, man. I have no idea if anything's viral. I don't pay attention to any of that stuff. I don't have a clue. I just come in here and do what I'm supposed to do, and y'all create whatever headlines you want from there. But I'm just focused on trying to get ready to play Syracuse. Not worried about anything else.
And no offense to Dabo, because I'm honored to be able to host the Coaches Show with him every single week. But Kevin, I'll toss it to you because I think it's kind of funny that Dabo says it's basically on the media creating this headline is kind of what he said there, when if you go through your 17-year history of being at a program in a 13-minute speech, and then you immediately follow that up with another 8-minute speech about your identity being in Christianity and not on the scoreboard, and also, hey, if Clemson is tired of winning, they can send me on my way and I might coach somewhere else. I'm only 55, I'm just getting started in this job. You have to think that that's probably going to be a story. So that's the only thing that I just wanted to point out. But Kevin, your reaction to Dabo and his response there?
Well, he can say he doesn't pay attention to this stuff, and we all know that's almost certainly not true. Even though he's not on social media, I'm sure he's got people on his staff who are saying, hey, this is being picked up here, this is being picked up there. So he knows what's going, and he knows when he says something like that, it's going to go national. There's no way he doesn't. It's a way to keep Clemson in the conversation, even when they're having a down year so far at 1-2 and getting ready to host Syracuse this weekend. So I don't buy that he doesn't pay attention to that. I'm sure he might not be scrolling through on his phone like the rest of us are on an hourly basis, but I'm sure he's got someone coming and telling him what's going on and what's being picked up where, Rick.
Yeah, I have to laugh about that when I hear coaches say they don't pay any attention. Lou Holtz was a guy, he'd say, hey, I don't watch TV, I'm not reading the papers, but yet he could tell me what I had in my show. And as a matter of fact, one time sent me a letter complimenting me on my high school football coverage. And I'm going to myself, but Lou, you don't watch TV. And also with Dabo, he knows when he says stuff like that, and you've got people telling him, hey, they're talking about this. I mean, maybe even his wife, his sons probably tell him some stuff. And then he goes, okay, I'm going to get asked about this. I'm going to have a response ready. Coaches do that too. They come into their press conferences expecting to get certain questions, and then they know how they're going to spin it. But, yeah, Dabo, he's just out there talking and talking and talking. And, sure, but he's going to go about his business of talking football. Is Dabo serious about leaving Clemson? I don't think so. Tegan?
Yeah, I mean, kind of like you said, Kevin, just keeping Clemson in the conversation, I'm sure, is part of why Dabo says the things he says, even though, they've had a rough start to the season so far. You look at Syracuse, and their head coach, Fran Brown, had a moment like that this week. Yesterday or the day before, he was talking about other programs that are trying to poach his players, and he called out those coaches and said some choice language about them and said, if I see you, I'm going to come over to you. So, coaches do this. They want to keep their teams out there. They want to keep being talked about. It's a typical Dabo response to something like that. I didn't really expect anything else, but still, always has some good things to say. Carmine?
Yeah, I'm just looking at the video of Dabo being so fired up, and I feel like that's him in coaching form of how fired up he was in the press conference form. But Tegan, I know you have your love for your Syracuse Orange, but Clemson about 17.5-point favorite to win and get back up to 500, earn their first ACC win. And Rick, looking for their first SEC win is the Gamecocks.
Boy, do the Gamecocks really need a win this weekend, especially if they want to fulfill those dreams of a double-digit win season, making it to the college football playoff. And we got some more news on the health status of Gamecock quarterback Lenore Sellers. He was upgraded from questionable to probable. So when it was questionable, yeah, people still had questions. How close is he? Probable? That tells me that he is practicing because Shane says, hey, if you're not able to practice by Wednesday, you're not going to play on Saturday. And also some news was leaking out, some reports that he has been practicing. So that's a good sign for the Gamecocks. And the question is, how effective will he be? Are they going to have to adjust the game plan somewhat? Because the Gamecocks, they really haven't caught fire on offense. And there's been a lot of criticism of the offensive coordinator, Mike Shula, like, is he keeping the reins too tight on Lenore? You got to let him go and do his thing, run the football. Here's Shane on talking about putting the game plan together and executing it.
You always look at everything, and you can watch the tape, and you see, okay, we're not executing this. I know what's being called. I'm in every offensive meeting and defensive meetings as much as I can during the week. I know what the game plan is. I meet with Clayton and Mike on Monday nights, Tuesday nights, and Wednesday nights to make sure all three of us are on the same page about what our plan of attack is and what we're calling. And same thing on special teams. So one, I know what we're trying to get done. And then if it's not getting executed at the level we want it to get executed at, then you got to look at yourself, myself included, as how you're presenting it, how you're teaching it, how you're coaching it. Is there a way to be better?
Yeah, defensively, the Gamecocks, they got to find a way to slow down Missouri's rushing attack, because if they're able to maintain possession, run some clock, keep the ball out of Lenore's hands if he is playing, going to make it that more difficult for the Gamecocks to leave the other Columbia with a victory. Kevin?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And, I know we've been talking about it all week, but as Sellers is listed at probable now, I'm still going back and forth on whether or not I think he should play in this game at all. And I know this is a must-win game, like you said, because of everything that's set up in the SEC after this game. They really can't afford it if they've got any hope of not only doing something, and making a push towards the playoff, but just getting to a bowl game is going to be tough with how everything is stacked up here the rest of this season. So I go back and forth. If he's probably going to play, like you said, but it's a toss-up for me whether or not he should play at this point of the season. Tegan, Coastal Carolina going on the road this weekend.
Yeah, Coastal Carolina taking on Southern Alabama. Coastal really in a tough spot right now. They lost last week at ECU. They lost at the beginning of the season to Virginia. They got that win against Charleston Southern, which was just a tough game to watch, honestly. A lot of the conversation right now has been around their head coach, Tim Beck. This is his third season. Is he on a hot seat? Yes, absolutely. I think if they do not win at South Alabama this weekend, I think he's gone by next week. He talked a little bit in his press conference this week. Somebody asked him, are you worried about your job right now? And he just basically said, whatever's going to happen is going to happen. That's above his head. It's other people's decisions. He's just going to keep coaching until he's told not to coach anymore. I just think it's a tough time for Coastal right now, for Coastal fans, watching this team, specifically the offense, just not really being able to get anything done. And this is the beginning of conference play, and I think I said this at one point on the show, that this was going to be the real test for Tim Beck, and if he would be staying here at Coastal this year. So right now, how I see it, I don't even see Coastal getting to a bowl game with how they're playing at the moment. So we'll have to see if they play South Alabama this weekend. That's tomorrow. We're going to take a quick break, though. We'll be back on the other side.
Welcome back to Palmetto Sports Daily. We talked a lot of college football, now some college basketball, and a strange story, guys, from here in the Upstate, where we heard reports yesterday after our time of recording that 6 Wofford basketball players had been suspended from the team by the NCAA, was what the report said, for some benefits that they are accused of receiving from continuing to use their meal plan after they moved into an off-campus apartment. But let's take a look at this statement that the NCAA just put out recently. And it says here, the NCAA will not comment on specific student athletes' eligibility status at this time to protect their privacy. Recent reports suggesting that the NCAA suspended student athletes at Wofford are inaccurate, as the NCAA did not suspend student athletes at this school and did not take any action against any athletic department personnel at this school. And it continues to say minor violations of rules regarding impermissible benefits are typically self-reported by schools, then processed as level 3, and are rarely, if ever, investigated by the NCAA. In those types of minor cases, schools declare the student athletes ineligible and then work with the NCAA from there. And this comes just a week after we were talking about it on this very show, Palmetto Sports Daily, that Wofford had fired head coach Dwight Perry and associate head coach Tyser Anderson from the men's basketball team. And we didn't get any reason as to why from the Wofford official statement. I talked to their sports information director, Brent Williamson, and he said they can't comment on any personnel matters. Of course, the follow-up questions to that are, is Dwight Perry and Tyser Anderson being fired connected with these students, the players being accused of receiving these impermissible benefits, 6 of them, for the meal plan usage while moving into an off-campus housing situation? None of those questions have been answered because Wofford won't say anything, but the NCAA coming out and saying they are not the ones to suspend these players. So if they are in fact suspended, which Brent Williamson wouldn't tell me either way if they are or not suspended, then it didn't come from the NCAA, is what the NCAA is saying here. And you see a tweet reporting that last night. And we have a bunch more details on our website, as I know you guys do. But Kevin, we were talking about this and messaging back and forth, just a crazy situation and not a lot of answers, and not a lot of answers as far as the connection with Wofford head coach Dwight Perry and associate head coach Tyser Anderson formerly, because they've been relieved of their positions. An interesting note here is that the 30-day transfer portal window opens for when coaches leave. So that if it results in Wofford players going into the transfer portal, could leave the Terriers completely short-handed with their season playing its first game in just a month and a half. And it's so weird, too, because it just comes 6 months after this team made its first NCAA tournament and first conference championship in 6 years. So, Kevin, what do you make of this whole situation?
Well, the big thing, like you mentioned, Carmine, is that the NCAA is not they're saying that they are not suspended, or that the NCAA did not suspend these kids. Wofford won't say either way if they are suspended or not. To me, if the kids aren't suspended, if you're the school, you're coming out and saying these kids are not suspended. This is not happening right now. There's nothing like this going on at our school. That tells me that they have done something wrong and they are being punished some way by the school, and the school just doesn't want to say it, because if they're not, why wouldn't the school want to get that out as soon as they could to let everyone know that these kids are eligible to play and that the team is ready to go? Still a lot of questions to answer on this one, Rick.
Good point there, Kevin. I've never heard of anything like this. I think what has happened, the school has handled this terribly. And so now they're trying to save face, because you listen to the NCAA, and when you hear what they're being accused of, it's minor. Suspend the guys, work with the NCAA, and everyone go on about their business. So we haven't heard the end of this. This is a really bad look for Wofford. All right, we're going to take a break. We'll be right back to wrap up the show.
We're going to quickly lock in our picks of the week here on Palmetto Sports Daily. I'll go first. I'm going to take a risk. I'm going to go Syracuse over Clemson. Sorry, Carmine. Kevin, what's your pick?
Texas over Sam Houston. Carmine.
Yeah, I got 6th-ranked Oregon over Oregon State in the Oregon rivalry. Rick?
Illinois over Indiana. Football over basketball. All right, that's going to do it for the Football Friday edition of Palmetto Sports Daily. Have a great weekend, everyone.